Are you
The
ready
big
for
segment.
rapid fire? Yes.
I am ready for rapid fire.
Let's do it. I'm going to start you with this because Matt put in a comment earlier, and I've
Oh,
been
and it's Stanford's first season with a new head coach. I
exactly,
forgot that as well. It is
exactly.
going to be a very ugly showing for Stanford. Sorry.
Yep. So Matt said Hartman at quarterback last year, and we win by a couple of scores against Ohio State. He thinks Ohio State loads the box to stop the run. Hartman lights up the Buckeyes backfield in a big win. My question to you simply, if Sam Hartman is the quarterback last year, does Notre Dame beat Ohio State?
I would say no. I'm going to say no, but I think it would have looked prettier. I think Notre Dame would have shown more production on the offensive side of the ball, obviously, but I still think that given the circumstances of where the team was under Marcus Freeman as being a first time head coach, being on the road in a big environment, being who Ohio State was running out there with CJ Stroud and those wide receivers, I do think that Ohio State would have snuck the game out, but I would have put it down to like whoever had the ball last and a field goal to kind of win it as time is expiring.
You know what? I tend to agree. Like I hadn't really thought about it before he said that. It ended up being an 11-point game as it was. And the game, of course, got away late. The zero blitz, was obviously a game changer, as we all know. I think that they are a lot less conservative if they have a veteran quarterback out
Correct.
there as opposed to a first-time starter on the road. So at the very least, I think it comes down to one possession at the end of the game. I don't know necessarily that translates into a win because again, you're talking about Marcus Freeman's second game as a head coach, and you do still have, some other questions, in that game, in terms of experience with the offensive line and, some different things like that, wide receivers. But I think at the very least, it comes down to one possession at the end of the game instead of losing by 11. I think it is, I think having an experience at quarterback definitely would have changed the complexion of that game, even if they don't end up winning ultimately. Fill in the blank. After going 4-0 against ACC opponents last season, Notre Dame has won 28 consecutive regular season games against the ACC. It would be blank if that streak ends this season.
It would be moderately surprising if that streak ends this season because we look at who the ACC opponents are on the schedule: North Carolina State, Duke, Louisville, Clemson, Pitt, and Wake Forest. So I believe by my count, that is 5 of the 12 games. I think that, based on what I said, they're going to lose one of those games at Clemson. So it would be a moderate surprise to me. And I'm not saying, I still think Notre Dame could beat Clemson. It's just a matter of, obviously how things come together. So if they lost one of those, I'd be moderately surprised. If they win all of those, I would also be moderately surprised. If they lose more than 2 ACC games this year, then I would say that there would be need for concern.
Yeah, last regular season loss, remember, goes all the way back to 2017 against Miami because the losses that they've had to Clemson have been in the college football playoff and in the ACC championship game since then. So, I agree. Especially if the loss is to Clemson, yeah, it's not necessarily a shocker because it is Clemson and we expect a good competitive game against Clemson. And like we're saying, we expect a lot of points. If it's one of the other teams, North Carolina State, Duke, Louisville, Wake Forest, then again, it goes back to what we were talking about. Then you've got alarm bells going off because then you're losing games that you're not supposed to lose. At some point, this streak is going to end. If it's going to end, you would much rather it be to a good Clemson team than one of these other ACC teams.
Correct.
That we're talking about. Rushman brought up the point that Hartman was out in week 1 last year. And as Derek said, it's a hypothetical. We're not talking literally, last year. We're just talking about if Sam Hartman is the quarterback kind of thing. It's a fair point, but Fill in the blank. 24/7 Sports projects Notre Dame to play Oregon in a New Year's Six Bowl this season. It would be blank if that happens.
It would be indicative of Notre Dame going 10-2 in the regular season if they play Oregon in a New Year's Six bowl game. Because if they go 11-1, I believe they're in the playoff, considering that 2 of those 3 wins would be against a combination of Ohio State, Clemson, and USC. So to me, 2 losses equal New Year's Six. 1 loss and above means playoff. So to me, that shows exactly how the season would end on Notre Dame's side of things.
Okay, I don't know really what you exactly said there, but I'll, I'll, I'll go with that. I just think it would be cool to see Notre Dame and Oregon play, in a New Year's Six Bowl. They've only played 4 times ever. They haven't played since 1982. It almost feels like they've never played before, but they very rarely played. I think it would be an interesting matchup as well. Bo Nix and that whole thing, and Sam Hartman. I think that it would be an interesting matchup. And if you're in a New Year's Six Bowl, what do you got to do? You got to win one of these things sooner or later, right? So, but I think it would be a nice, fun little matchup. Going back to Duke, Stymie says Duke's quarterback is legit. I'm a fan. Don't sleep on him. I brought him up, Riley Leonard. Again, dual threat quarterback. He's gonna be one of those, kind of like maybe like a little Caleb Williams light, kind of thing. I feel like they're a team that Notre Dame should be able to make one-dimensional. And so much of what they did last year was on their defense. And it's not like they played a power pack schedule either, So it's a game that I feel pretty confident that Notre Dame should be able to win.
I mean, Oregon and North Carolina was a close bowl game, and Notre Dame handled North Carolina at North Carolina.
Yeah. By the way, Salty wants to know, Jess, did you think about buttoning up and decided to keep?
It's funny. This if at work, I realized I was at work and I actually buttoned one of these buttons, but if I wasn't at work, there would be no buttons. So the V would have only gotten deeper. Unfortunately, I just forgot that it was buttoned, and now I'm off work and didn't unbutton it.
All right. Something new we're going to drop in here over the next few weeks. What college team we're going to name an NFL team, and you have to say what college team reminds you of them. So we're going to start. We're Cowboys fans. Let's just go Dallas Cowboys. What college team reminds you of the Dallas Cowboys?
So there's 2 that come to mind. For the first one, everyone should probably plug their ears because they're not going to like this one. But I would actually say Notre Dame and the Cowboys have a lot of similarities of having a very big national presence, having a lot of hype and anticipation, and sometimes rather than or more, more often than not, it seems they kind of let you down.
Outcome
in the big game.
Expectation. That's right.
Yes, the outcomes do not match the fan expectation, the national expectation that comes every year. And again, the Cowboys haven't won an NFC championship since 1996. I mean,
haven't even been to the NFC championship game since then.
Right. And Notre Dame in that same time span, at least from what I can remember, they've lost in a national championship. They've lost in 2 playoff games. They've lost in 3 to 4 New Year's Six bowl games. I see a lot of parallels. And so that was team number 1. Team number 2.
I'll finish on that so we don't have to double back. But 35 years since Notre Dame won a national championship, 27 since the Cowboys did. And, they're like in both cases, like you're talking about polar, like even so, like on-field results have shown that neither of them, both of them have had, like you said, Notre Dame gets to a national championship game and the playoffs, 3 undefeated regular seasons, can't punch it through, in terms of big games. They've lost, 9 consecutive New Year's Six Bowl games. The Cowboys have lost, they've only won 4 playoff games in nearly 30 years at this point. And in both cases, again, polarizing organizations, and you're starting to hear some of the same stuff from Notre Dame fans that I think, can be said of the Cowboys and Jerry Jones for a long time. Do you care more about winning or just making the money?
Right.
So I think that there are a ton of similarities. That was the similarity I had. I'm curious to see what the other one is that you have.
It's actually within the same state, the University of Texas. I think that for a lot of the same reasons, people expect Texas to be really good based off of past success. And every year we talk about, this is the year for Texas. Texas is back. They're going to make some noise again. And they go 8-4, and they go 7-5, and they barely scrape 500. I mean, that's been the definition of the Cowboys the last 25 years or so. Just a lot of expectations to start. A lot of this is the season they turn it around, and it just hasn't happened. And so I think that Texas is another very similar team in terms of a comparison to the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think that that's a good one. I hadn't thought about that, but you're absolutely right. You always, just like you said, are they back? And, the fact that they're both from Texas, and Oklahoma's not far away either. And Indy Cheat Sheet says that Oklahoma's another one because of Barry Switzer. And and at least common, but, the difference, I guess in recent years, like you can definitely say, because what year was that? Was that 99 or 2000 that Oklahoma won a championship? So I guess at least they have a championship more recently, but in recent years, they've been to a lot of playoffs, but they've never actually won anything once they've gone to the playoffs. So, a lot of regular season wins, but the other side of that is at least Oklahoma, and for that matter, Texas has a national championship too. Again, more recently, but in recent years, been a lot of expectations that have gone unfulfilled. Now, speaking of which, interesting one that I saw here. In the last 30 years, Ohio State has only lost 66 games under 5 different head coaches, but they've also only won 2 national championships in those 3 decades. Meanwhile, Alabama, Florida, Nebraska, LSU have all lost more than 100 games in that same span, but they each have at least 3 national championships. And obviously, Alabama, a lot more than that. As a fan, which of those would you take for the next 30 years?
So I'm going to do a little simple Ricky Bobby math here for everyone. If you're not first, you're last. And if you're last, you're last. I don't care about the regular season wins. That's all window dressing. Those get you to the national championships. I care about the national championships themselves. People don't talk about teams and say, yeah, they won a lot of games, a lot of 10, 11 win seasons. And, they were really good consistently. They talk about your legacy and the amount of national championships you win. That's all that people care about. When can you get the national championship off your back? I mean, look at the Cubs. They couldn't get it off their back for 100 years. That's all everyone talked about, no matter how many good regular season teams they had over that span of 100 years. I'll put it like this. Notre Dame could go 6-6 in 17 seasons and win 3 national championships in the other, and I would love that. It would make up for all the 6-6 seasons.
Yeah, exactly. They could win 1 national championship. Like, would you trade 1 national championship for a bunch of 6-6 seasons in the next 30 years? Now, there'd be a lot of griping in between, that's for sure. But just win the national, like you said, the regular season wins mean absolutely nothing if it doesn't turn it, just like what we were just talking about with unfulfilled expectations for Notre Dame and Cowboys and, Oklahoma, Texas, whoever it happens to be. It does not matter. 2 national championships, 3 national championships, trade it all, trade all the regular season wins for one of those national championships. That's all that matters. I think, wouldn't you trade right now a national championship for anything else that happened in between?
Oh, 100%. I'd do it for a Cowboys Super Bowl as well.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting question, or a comment rather, here that Gregory Perez made. He says the clear difference between Notre Dame fans preseason and Texas fans is that rational Notre Dame fans will try to be rational. Rational Texas fans will try to convince themselves that they're in the same league as Bama. I agree with that to a point, but what's your definition of rational? Because I definitely think, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this, but the expectations at Notre Dame, it's what? National championship or bust, right? So there are plenty of people who will tell you, that if they're not winning a national championship, it's an unsuccessful season. I'm not saying that that's a majority of the fan base, but there are plenty of people who have that mindset. Do you agree or disagree, Jess?
I think the part that I agree with the most is that Notre Dame fans are a bit more rational. I think that Texas
you do think that Notre Dame fans are at least by and large more rational than Texas fans.
Yeah, I think the Texas fans are a lot like the Notre Dame fans, where the Cowboy fans, where they just get blinded. They don't look at anything around them, and they're just this is our year, this is it. We're gonna be a great team, and it's like, did you analyze everything that's going on around you right now? Or are you just blindly hopeful and optimistic like that every year?
Greg says he still thinks that Notre Dame fans are fanatics. I don't disagree with that. That's why we're here, right? That's why we're having a good time. Tuck a little ball in late June. College baseball's Golden Spikes Award winner, which is the equivalent, it's college baseball's equivalent of the Heisman Trophy, was announced minutes before Game 2 of the College World Series Finals Sunday. All three finalists for the award were playing in that game in Omaha. What do you think about the timing of the announcement of that award?
It's the worst timing there is. You either announce it right after Super Regionals end, or you wait until today as soon as the College World Series has concluded. But there is no advantage, no benefit, no positive, nothing good comes out of announcing it in the middle of the championship series. And it doesn't even matter. Like, say they announced that, and the finalists, none of them were a part of the game. I still don't care. The what is important and what you're taking away from the attention of the actual championship series itself. And so again, you either announce it right before the College World Series starts, or you wait until today, and wait until the season is completely over.
Well, yeah, you could even, Friday was an off day in Omaha. There were no games on Friday. The in between, they played on Thursday to get into the finals, and then the finals started on Saturday. Why not do a little ceremony on Friday, especially since all the guys were there? Or like you said, just do it before the College World Series. There's plenty of, do it before the series starts. You've got everyone congregating in Omaha anyway. Just do it like the day before the series starts, or like you said, right after the Super Regionals. It's just the fact that you would literally make this announcement minutes before the teams are getting ready to take the field just makes absolutely no sense to me. Again, you're on the biggest stage as it is. Have a little, build a ceremony out of it. But to be doing it right before a game is actually starting is one of the weirdest things that I think I've ever heard. Speaking of the College World Series, if you watched any of the series, you probably heard about the Jello Shot Challenge at a place called Rocco's, which is right across the street from Charles Schwab Field. They kept a tally board inside the bar. Fans would buy shots during the College World Series, $5 per Jello shot. And, they kept tabs on the board of like whose fan base was buying the most. LSU lapped the field with more than 65,000 shots. The other 7 teams combined for around 27,000 So you do the math on that. That's more than 92,000 Jello shots in a little bit more than a week. $5 a pop, 460,000 total dollars just in Jello shots at one bar. How did
That doesn't even include tips or taxes.
That's right. My question, Jess, how did someone not think of this sooner? Like, this is only like a recent phenomenon within the last few years that this thing has started taking off.
I think that the only reason you don't see this more often is because think of a championship series where all the teams are in one spot and all the games are being played in one spot, right? Like the Super Bowl is two teams when it's all down to the end. That's just like every finals, right? Two teams. The closest thing that in comparison is the NCAA tournament, right? But the Final Four is at a different location. The Sweet 16 is at a different location. The round of 32 is at a different location. So the reason why this is successful, because you have 8 teams in a championship series, all in a smaller, relatively smaller city of Omaha, Nebraska. So I think that baseball is truly the only, this venue and this College World Series is the only venue that can truly capitalize on something like this. So I'm not surprised that we haven't seen it outside of this realm, but for it not coming up or being an idea for the College World Series for this long is shocking to me, because like you said, it's just like it's like this bar should just maximize this money as much as they can every year, because you're not going to see a 2-week span like this until a year later.
They literally just print money, and all they had to do was buy a dry erase board and put up the names of 8 teams up there.
It was the easiest concept, least amount of money, most profit ever.
And like now you share it on social media so everyone sees it, everyone hears about it. And of course,
and then you make it a competition within the competition.
Exactly. And it's, you make a competition out of it, and you're just like, anyone who comes into the place. Are you disappointed that you didn't do a Jello shot last year when we were out there to watch Notre Dame?
I drank enough in other areas, but I should have
drank your Uncle Sluggo into the table.
I should have dumped some of those Jello shots down Uncle Sluggo's throat to make him feel better about losing his salad while we were there.
That's right. By the way, the guy who is one of the founders of Raising Cane's, he's a Baton Rouge resident. He bought $30,000 worth of Jello shots when he went out there last week. 6,000 total shots in one drop. 30 grand.
Must have been a nice tax write-off for him, supporting the local LSU
fans. And they actually, to try to make up for the fact that they're selling alcohol, basically, they give $1 from every shot to the food pantries, in the local towns of each school. So they do make a little charity work out of the whole thing as well. But it's just they're printing money by making it, like you said,
that's a $500,000 in 2 weeks.
I know, for very little work. And it's like, again, you're right across the street from the ballpark. People are going to go there anyway. Even Henry is going crazy for it right now.
Do you see him back there just rolling around? He is going crazy. He is fired up. He knows the show is almost over and I've been gone all day. So he's like, Dad, I need you to come play with me.
That's right. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. Thanks for being here. We will be back, of course, tomorrow. Vince will be in for the mailbag. Jesse will be in later this week. I think all 3 of us, I just did 4, but I think all 3 of us plus Henry will be around on Friday for the Rapid Fire show as well. And Henry is the world's biggest Notre Dame fan. He's back there doing his thing right now. Hit the like button on your way out. We will talk to you tomorrow. Of course, subscribe, rate, and review on your podcast platforms. We will see you later on IB Nation Sports Talk.